A few weeks ago, I spent 5 figures on a whim to fly across the world and sit in a room in Lake Como, Italy. But it wasn't about the lake, which is beautiful. It was about who was in the room. Welcome to Leadership, Law, and Lightwork. I'm Marcia Reinvention. This is the show where we study how the brain, the body, and belief patterns shape the way you lead, decide, and show up when it matters most. Each week you get the Leadership Lab, the book brief, the legal blind spot, and the Toolkit tea. So let's get into it. And stay with me to the end because I'm going to walk you through a short practice under 3 minutes that lets you actually meet the version of you on the other side of this episode. Don't skip it. It's the part that turns this from an idea into a decision. Let's talk about reinvention. And I want to start by telling on myself a little. I just left the job I loved. 15 years teaching law, students I adored. Some of them still tell me that they use what I taught them every single day at work. Walking away from that was not a small decision. And I did it anyway. Nothing was wrong. Something was calling. It was louder than the thing that already fit where I was. And that's the part people often get wrong about reinvention. We think it shows up when your life is falling apart. A lot of times it shows up when your life looks great on paper, but some part of you already knows that the structure is too small for you. It was scary, and I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. It was also necessary because the impact I want to have doesn't fit inside the life I've already built. Now, here's what I've come to believe about why most of us stay put anyway. That's going to sound a little rough. We live in a pattern. We think it's a willpower problem, but it's an environmental problem. And it's usually an environment full of people who love us. So let me give you the science, because it changed how I think. 2 researchers, Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler, spent years inside the data from the Framingham Heart Study. What they found is that behavior spreads through your social network like a current through water. Not just smoking or weight or moods, but things like happiness, ambition. And it reaches up to 3 degrees away. So your friend's friend might be setting your baseline and you don't even know them. And after 3 decades in rooms like this, in boardrooms, in classrooms, meeting rooms, and in my own coaching practice, the science matches what I see all the time. The most capable people I know are rarely stalling for lack of talent. They stall because everyone around them has already agreed on how big they were allowed to get. You change the agreement and the whole ceiling moves. So it's uncomfortable, right? Because the people around you are deciding what feels normal for you, what's possible for you, what's too much for you to want. And most of us never even notice it happening. And this is the real reason we keep ourselves small. We don't sit down and say, I'm going to shrink. We just inherit the ceiling of the rooms we don't leave. When everyone around you is playing at 2x, wanting 10x seems insane. So you bring yourself down and you call yourself being realistic. And there's a reason it's hard to leave, even when you know it's right. Because we're wired for loss aversion. We feel the string of something that's going away. It's pulling us harder to replace it. And we let that sink in, the story about who we are and that we're a capable person, but we're defending a life we've already outgrown. The people clapping loudest for us are often the people that are worried about the next version of you. And they're not bad people. They're just uncomfortable with that growth. It's going to cost them the version of you that they like, which brings me to going to Italy. So I'm part of a mastermind, a business mastermind, and the woman who runs it, Marisa Murgatroyd, pulled together a smaller group to go to Lake Como. When I saw what it cost to get there, every sensible voice said, absolutely not. But I went anyway, because I've learned that the pull toward a braver room is information that I need. And I didn't argue. I wasn't paying for a view. I was paying to stand next to people building things far bigger than I'd let myself imagine. And I walked in there with the wrong question. For months, I've been trying to basically explain what my latest work is, my mission. Hunting for the perfect sentence that would help people understand it immediately. And that was the problem. I could spend the next 5 years explaining myself, 1 coffee at a time, or I can find the one person who can put me in front of thousands of people in the next month. This is not a business insight. This is a life instruction. A lot of you are exhausting yourselves trying to be understood inside of a room that was never going to understand you. Stop auditioning for people who are attached to the old version of you. I want you to audit rooms this week. Be brutal. Look at the 5 or 6 people whose energy you're in most often. And that might not be the people you love the most. Is this person stretching what I think is possible? Or are they holding me back? You're not looking for villains. Good people can still be in very small rooms. But if every room you're in just reflects who you already are, nothing is pushing you to become anyone else. So if you want to change the room. The next version of you is already normal someplace else. Go stand in there, even when it costs you. And that's your leadership lab. Now onto the book read. And it's the book that I actually read on the way to Italy. So our homework for this mastermind was to read a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And I'll be honest with you, it's one of those books that everybody name drops and a lot of people haven't actually read. And I was one of those people. So I read the whole thing on the flight over, and it really rearranged my brain before I even landed. So here's a key sentence. Going 10X is easier than going 2X because 10X is impossible by brute force. A 2X lets you keep grinding away, but a 10X forces you to make decisions about what's useless. You can have to get rid of everything and only keep the small part that's exceptional. And it sounds backwards until you feel it in your own life. So let's talk about Michelangelo. He said he didn't create the statue. The statue was already inside the marble, and his whole job was to chip away at everything that was not it. That is the book. The move is subtraction. You carve away that 80% that's in the way. Reinvention is subtraction much more than is addition. And the 80% is bigger than your to-do list. It's the clients who only fit the old you. It's the rules you learn to outgrow, the habits that explain every little thing so that no one can question whether you belong there. It's the identity of being capable who carries everything. That stuff feels like it's loss to release because it is a loss. And the book is honest about that, and I actually respect that. The move it hands you is who, not how. When you hit a wall, the small question is, how do I do this? The big question is, who can do this? You don't carve that statue alone. And it flips. Most of us want to feel ready first, and then we commit. But reinvention changes it. You commit, and then the readiness shows up to meet you because you could otherwise keep negotiating with yourself. The part that really changed my mindset, though, was the 4 freedoms. Because if you shrink 10X just to get money, you've missed it. The real measures in freedom, time. This is brutal for high achievers because we built our whole lives on being available. We fix things, we answer things, we do things fast. We become everyone's backup plan, and we get praised right until the time that our calendar belongs to everybody but us. Freedom asks what your time is actually for and who should lose access to you. Money. Women especially get trained to whisper about it, but money is the oxygen for your mission. A business that does not make money cannot sustain the work, and a founder who will not charge properly becomes the bottleneck. So stop asking how to charge more. Ask what problems that you solve that are worth far more than you're charging, and what it costs someone to leave that unsolved. And a lot of us are underpaid for a single reason. We keep explaining our value when we should be charging for it. Charge for the size of the problem that you solve. Relationships. Who belongs in your future? Who makes the room bigger and who makes it smaller? Some people love you and still can't see that next version of you. They respect you, but they secretly want the old role for you. It means you got to be careful about who has access to your ambitions and your doubts. And then purpose. This is the one that gives the other 3 meaning. Purpose is the work that is actually worthy of the energy you have left. And that question lands differently depending on what you've built, right? Sometimes it's hard to walk away from that. But this is why reinvention can feel so strange. You're finally building something big enough to hold who you already are. Now, one honest critique, because I always tell you where a book falls short. This is a mindset book. It's going to convince you, but it's not going to hand you the steps. It might also assume in some places that you have the money to hire people to do certain things. That's not everybody's starting line. But take the reframe. Think about this. You already contain the bigger version of yourself, and the work is to remove and carve away what's covering that. So that was the book brief. And now let's go to the legal blind spot. The legal blind spot is brought to you by Legally Lucid, which is a business protection platform that I'm building that helps you know what to check before you sign, hire, launch, scale, raise money, or rely on AI. So it helps business owners and nonprofits avoid expensive legal mistakes. Okay, so this one came straight out of the mastermind. For fun, we started making some songs with AI. The lyrics, the music, the voices, all of it. They all matched our business idea. And then the lawyer in me woke up and started asking the questions that nobody else cared about. Who owns these lyrics? Who owns the melody? Who owns the recording? Can I even use this commercially? Can I stop someone else from using it? Can somebody turn around and say it sounds too much like their voice? Underneath all of this is one question. When AI helps you make something, what do you actually own? So 2 years ago, AI helped you draft emails, make them sound nicer, clean them up. Now it's helping you build assets, your logos, your theme music, your sales pages, your client deliverables, whole workflows. An asset is something that you can sell, license, protect, and build a brand on. So before you put anything that AI touched out into the wild, I want you to run some questions. Can I keep it? Can I sell it? Can I stop someone else from copying it? Can someone say I copied them? So keep in mind that commercial rights and copyright are two completely different things. When a tool like Suno or Udio says you could use your song commercially because you're on the paid version, that is just a contract between you and them. It means they're not going to come after you for selling it. Copyright is a whole separate thing. It is the right that lets you stop someone from stealing your work. But here's the catch. The U.S. Copyright Office has been really clear as of July when I'm filming this. You have to have a human author, right? The arrangements and the audio is all generated by AI. You can't protect that. No human authored it. So the platform can hand you the right to sell it, but the law may say you can't protect it. So you can have a contract, but no way to protect that. And most of your answers are actually sitting in your terms of service, which of course no one reads, but I want you to read them. Check the date, check what plan you were on. Don't assume that paying for the tool means you own the output. Don't assume that making something means you can use it anywhere. Don't assume commercial rights mean copyright. Don't assume that the terms will stay the same next month. Tool permission is not the same as legal permission. A lot of the things that you make on a free plan is usually personal use only. So try to write your own lyrics if you can. And if it's a human that's writing the words, those words are yours and they're copyrightable. Human authorship is the thing that unlocks protection, at least as of July 2026. So write them, keep your drafts, show your work. The more of the real creativity that comes from you, the more you likely actually own. One warning on voices though. If the AI spits out a voice that sounds like a real recognizable artist and it's really clear, you made it run right into a right of publicity or other kind of issue. It's a whole other legal concern. Someone's famous voice may run you into a lawsuit. So that's your legal blind spot. Built with AI, absolutely. Just know what the rules are between being allowed to sell something and actually owning it. Because that's the gap where the money and the leverage actually live. So if this legal blind spot poked at you or made you a little nervous, that's exactly the kind of thing I'm helping founders think about before it becomes an expensive problem. Link in the show notes for legallylucid.com if it's useful for you. And now on to the toolkit take. Reinvention does not happen in a plan. You can write it down all you want, but it happens in the body. So I want to close by taking you somewhere. This works best if you're not driving. If you are, keep your eyes open. But before we do this, let me tell you why it works. Because this is not some woo-woo manifestation exercise. There is a brain imaging research that shows that when most people picture their future self, the brain treats that person like a stranger. Same pattern as thinking about someone you've never met. And you don't do sacrifice for a stranger. You don't save for that stranger. You don't make the hard changes for that stranger because that's not you. It's a stranger. So the fix is detail. So this is going to be very short what we're going to do, but I just want to give you a taste of it. But the more you can be detailed and vivid, the more your brain will actually start thinking that this is actually you. And that's the whole point of what we're going to do now. Again, a very truncated version. So first, settle. Breathe in through your nose, take a second one, and deep exhale through your mouth. Let your shoulders drop. I want you to visualize yourself maybe 1 or 2 years from now. What's around you? What do you see? What are you wearing? What can you smell? Maybe it's fresh flowers or freshly baked bread. How do you stand? Where are you living? What happens when you walk into a room? What's on your calendar? Who are the clients that you gave away? What are the things that you're no longer explaining? How does the room feel at a 10x level when you've subtracted? Who are the people that are making you feel braver? How easy is it for you to say no to things that don't serve your 10x mission? How do you talk about your work? You're not apologizing for it anymore, right? You're charging for the size of the problem that you solve. Ask yourself one thing. What's the one word that you live from in this future state? Let it come on its own. Don't try to pick it with your head. Let your body hand it to you. Maybe it's owner, builder, retired, goddess, man of the universe, whatever it is. Let that word be your anchor this week. And everything that you're going to do, tie it to that word to see if it's going to help you become who you are meant to be. Think about the rooms you're in. Whenever fear comes back, and it will, hand on your chest, take your breath, and remember that fear is just the tool to propel you. You're just trying to catch up to yourself. Think of that word. Open your eyes. And remember that reinvention is about carving. It's about subtraction. And when you let things fall away, you get to be brave enough for what's coming. So here's my question for you this week. When is the last time you let an old version of yourself go? on purpose? And what would your life be if you didn't hold yourself back? Think about that future you we just did in that very truncated episode. And think about what it would be like to live in that future. What would you smell, see, taste, hear, touch? What word would people use when they described you? What does your reinvention look like? So if this episode was helpful for you, please make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone else who needs it. I'll see you next time.